Have you ever noticed how sometimes the more you chase someone's attention, the farther they seem to drift away? It's almost like trying to catch a cloud in your hands. You reach out and it slips away, leaving you drenched in frustration. Life has a curious way of teaching us lessons through these very moments, and often, the simplest solution is the hardest to practice. Sometimes, the secret to being respected, valued, or even truly understood is not in giving more attention, but in giving yourself space. You see, there is a certain psychology behind human relationships that we rarely acknowledge. When we give someone our constant presence, our continuous affirmations, or our relentless attention, it can unconsciously strip away our own value. Not because the other person wants to diminish you, but because you have made yourself too available, like a book left open on a table for anyone to read without care. The subtle art of not investing emotionally is not cruelty. It is self-respect, it is wisdom, and it is an acknowledgement that your energy is precious. I once met a young man who was constantly trying to impress someone he admired. He would call, message, and respond instantly to every small thing. And yet, the more he tried, the less he felt fulfilled. One day he paused, and with a quiet smile, he decided to step back. He started focusing on his work, his hobbies, his spiritual growth. He didn't ignore out of anger or ego, but from a place of calm self-awareness. And interestingly, things began to change. He noticed people, including the one he admired, began to respect his time, his boundaries, and even his presence more deeply. What he discovered was a simple truth: when you value yourself, others begin to see that value too. The lesson here is profound. Life is not about manipulating others or playing games to make them chase you. It is about cultivating an inner stability that does not depend on constant validation. By creating healthy boundaries, by learning the art of emotional restraint, and by respecting your own worth, you allow relationships to breathe. You give others the opportunity to meet you halfway, rather than expecting them to meet you entirely where you are exhausted. Patience, discipline, and introspection are your allies in this journey. Ignoring, in the right sense, is not about coldness or neglect. It is about being deliberate with your attention, about choosing where your energy goes, and about protecting the garden of your own mind. It is about understanding that sometimes stepping back is the greatest step forward. And in the silence of your own self-respect, you will find a quiet joy that no amount of chasing can ever give. So, the next time you feel tempted to pour all your energy into someone's world, pause, take a deep breath, and remember, the most powerful relationships are built not on constant attention, but on mutual respect, understanding, and the gentle wisdom of knowing when to step back. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to pull others toward them effortlessly, while others feel drained no matter how hard they try? Life often teaches us that our energy is the most precious resource we have, yet we tend to give it away without thinking. Especially in relationships, there is a delicate balance between giving and preserving. When we overextend ourselves, when we are constantly chasing attention or approval, we forget the most important relationship we have, the one with ourselves. I remember hearing about a young man who admired a woman deeply. Every day, he would go out of his way to be noticed, to respond immediately to every message, to laugh at every joke, to agree with everything. And yet, despite his relentless efforts, he felt emptier and emptier. One day, an older mentor simply asked him, "What are you seeking when you run after her so urgently?" That question struck him like lightning. He realized that in giving all his attention away, he had lost his own center. He had forgotten that love and respect begin with self-worth. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply step back. It is not about rejection or bitterness. It is about creating space for both yourself and the other person to breathe. When you stop over-investing, something magical happens. You begin to see people clearly, without the fog of neediness. You understand their choices, their moods, and their patterns without being entangled emotionally. And more importantly, you start valuing your own time, your own energy, and your own peace of mind. There is a gentle psychology here. Humans naturally respond to presence and absence. When we are always available, our presence loses its weight. It becomes ordinary. But when we hold ourselves with quiet dignity, when we are patient, calm, and deliberate in our attention, we become magnetic, not because we demand admiration, but because we embody it. People notice confidence, self-respect, and composure more than constant flattery or attention. This practice is also an exercise in discipline and introspection. Ignoring, in this sense, is not a game or a trick. It is a conscious choice to protect your inner world while observing life with clarity. It is a recognition that the universe rewards patience, balance, and calm presence. By not reacting impulsively to every desire or every expectation, you cultivate emotional maturity, and in doing so, you create relationships that are deeper, more respectful, and more meaningful. So, the next time you feel compelled to chase attention, pause, breathe, step back with quiet self-respect. Allow relationships to unfold naturally, rather than forcing them to bend to your will. Because when you honor your own space, your own time, and your own energy, you not only enrich your life but also elevate every connection you have with others. The secret is not in running faster towards someone, but in walking gracefully alongside life, with patience, awareness, and a heart that knows its own worth. There is a subtle truth about human connections that many of us overlook. Attention is a currency, and like any currency, it has value. When we give it freely without thought, it can lose meaning, not because the other person is ungrateful, but because our own energy becomes diluted. We often think that showing someone constant care or approval will make them appreciate us more. Yet, paradoxically, the opposite tends to happen. It is in stepping back, in holding our attention with mindfulness, that relationships begin to find balance and respect naturally. I once observed a young man who was in the habit of texting someone he liked incessantly. Every reaction, every mood, every message seemed to demand an immediate response. He believed that if he was always present, he would secure her affection. But over time, he felt exhausted, unnoticed, and unfulfilled. Then, with gentle guidance, he began to practice a quiet detachment. He did not disappear out of anger or pride. He simply allowed himself the dignity of being selective with his presence. Slowly, he noticed a shift. He felt lighter, more in control, and even noticed that interactions became more meaningful when they did occur. He had discovered that value is not in constant availability, but in thoughtful presence. This principle is not manipulation, nor is it a trick to make someone chase you. It is a lesson in self-respect, patience, and emotional intelligence. When we stop reacting compulsively to every emotion, every expectation, every desire for validation, we create a calm space within ourselves. And it is in this calm space that our true power emerges. People are drawn not to neediness, but to composure. They are inspired by confidence, integrity, and the subtle charm of someone who is content with their own life. Learning to ignore, in this sense, is not about denial or coldness. It is about choosing where our energy flows. It is about understanding that we cannot control others, but we can always choose how we respond. By observing life, by pausing before reacting, and by cultivating inner stability, we not only protect our own peace, but also allow relationships to unfold more naturally. It is like tending a garden. You cannot force flowers to bloom by pulling them. You water, nurture, and patiently wait. In time, the beauty appears effortlessly. Ultimately, this is a journey of self-discovery. By being deliberate with our attention, by holding space for ourselves, and by valuing our own worth, we become magnetic in a quiet, dignified way. The lessons of patience, discipline, and emotional clarity extend far beyond any single relationship. They transform how we relate to the world itself. The next time you feel the urge to overextend yourself for someone else's approval, remember this: your presence is powerful. But it becomes most powerful when it is measured, intentional, and rooted in self-respect. Step back, breathe, and trust that the universe honors those who honor themselves first. Life has a way of teaching us lessons in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes the people we admire or care for the most become the very source of our restlessness. We feel a constant urge to be noticed, to be appreciated, to be present in their world. And in that eagerness, we forget the simplest, yet most profound truth: our energy is sacred. The more we scatter it aimlessly, the more we lose ourselves. there is a subtle wisdom in learning when to step forward and when to step back, especially in the delicate realm of human relationships. I once heard of a young man who was infatuated with someone he admired. Every day, he would try to be at her beck and call, to make her laugh, to respond immediately, to prove his worth in every small gesture. And yet he felt increasingly exhausted and unfulfilled. One day, he paused and asked himself a simple question. Am I seeking her attention or am I losing myself in it? That moment of reflection changed everything. He began to practice a quiet detachment, not out of arrogance, but out of respect for his own heart. By valuing his own time, his own thoughts, and his own peace, he began to notice that interactions became richer, deeper, and more meaningful. He discovered that presence has power, but overpresence diminishes it. This is a lesson in emotional intelligence. Ignoring, when done consciously, is not a game or a method to manipulate someone's feelings. It is a practice of self-respect. It is about holding your energy wisely, choosing where to invest your attention, and understanding that relationships flourish best when they are balanced. When we stop reacting compulsively, when we stop seeking constant validation, we allow both ourselves and others to breathe. And in that breathing space, genuine connection begins to emerge. The psychology is simple yet profound. Humans are naturally drawn to those who are calm, grounded, and self-assured. When you are always available, you become predictable and ordinary. But when you exercise patience, when you allow your attention to be thoughtful rather than automatic, you become magnetic. Not because you are playing a trick, but because you embody dignity, self-awareness, and inner strength. People notice composure, kindness, and a steady mind far more than unrelenting attention. Ultimately, this is not about ignoring others out of spite. It is about creating a life in which your own peace is paramount. It is about observing, reflecting, and acting with intention. By stepping back, by not overextending emotionally, we cultivate patience, discipline, and clarity. The relationships that survive this gentle restraint are the ones that are built on mutual respect and understanding. They are deeper, truer, and more fulfilling. So, the next time you feel the urge to chase approval or to overextend yourself for someone else's attention, pause, reflect, protect your energy, step back gracefully, and let life unfold. Because when you honor your own worth, you create the space for others to honor it too. And in that quiet space, you discover a joy and serenity that no amount of chasing can ever give.